Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be starting our Immigrant Story series, sessions, whatever you want to call it. Um, I have my wonderful friend here with me. So for everybody out there, I'm Jamila Little. Um, immigration attorney at Little Law PA. And I have my wonderful friend here with me who's going to join in this discussion, Trudy Bierman from PSI TV. Trudy is also an immigrant from Jamaica. She I thought would be really the best person to do this today because she's also a talk show host and just an amazing, amazing entrepreneur, friend, and mentor. So, Trudy, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. And let's kick this off. I would love to see some more people come in. I think this is so exciting to really talk about our stories. I think there's power in our stories. So, let's kick this off.
Yes, there is power in the story. All of us immigrants who have come here have our own American dream story. So, Jamila, this is an amazing thing you're doing. Why immigrant stories? This whole series that you're starting off, why immigrant stories?
To be completely honest and transparent, this is something that I first thought about a long time ago. So it's actually been years that it's been just kind of sitting, and I haven't been really doing anything with it. So it's like the end of the year, and I said to myself, I need to do it. There's power in just doing the thing. So here I am. And I thought about the idea because obviously I'm an immigrant, and there are things that I, went through, struggles, triumphs, um, victories that I went through as an immigrant, having left my home country of Trinidad and Tobago several years ago, and coming to the US and having the experience. It's something that I want to share, but also I have, through my work, also interacted with immigrants from all over the world, and they have just amazing stories. And I believe that the United States was really blessed to have people from all over the world come here to build and invest. The US was built on the backs of immigrants. And I think that is the absolute truth. And there's also been, I think somewhat of a negative perspective on immigration, on immigrants. But I think immigrants do amazing things for their community, their teachers, their attorneys, their doctors, and we all come here to build this country, to better ourselves, and like you said, to pursue that American dream. So I want to share that with people. I want to get that truth out to people. And I think, like you said earlier, there is power in the stories. I think there's also the part of encouraging those who are still on the journey to keep going. It may be tough, but you'll get to the other side.
So tell us your American dream story, explaining particularly the trigger to your decision to leave your home country of Trinidad and Tobago and actually come to the United States to build a life for yourself.
Okay, so it started off when I was a wee little girl. So I've actually wanted to come to study in the US. And that was a dream that I had at 16 years old. So our schooling system in the Caribbean, as you know, it's a little bit different to the US. We graduate from high school at 16 years old. So at 16 years old, I made the decision that I wanted to go study abroad. And I honestly just wanted to go to this one college, Spelman College in Georgia. And that was my dream. I don't think I thought past that. I remember applying, and for some reason, I probably need to have this conversation with him, but for some reason, and my dad, he would travel back and forth. I had family in Georgia. For some reason, my dad, at 16 years old, I applied, I got in. So I was so excited. I got in to Spelman at 16. He withdrew my application. That's another story for another day. But he withdrew my application. He was visiting Georgia. I guess he went to the college, and he came back and he told me, and I was just devastated, absolutely devastated. It took me um, another 4 years before I would actually enter and start matriculating into Spelman College. But what happened during that time frame was really a whole transformation of my life, and as you know, Trudy, I am a Christian. And I feel like I needed that time, space at that point to really figure out what I wanted to do, as far as my Christianity. And I think that period allowed me to really be solid. And so the point in time when I actually got to leave and come to Spelman College was a point in time when my older brother was attending Morehouse. Shout out to Dr. Little. He's another immigrant out there. Has a great dental practice. Shameless plug, Dunedin Dentistry. Anyways, but he was at Morehouse, and he really encouraged me. He helped me through the application process. I mean, I'm forever grateful for him and assisting me through that process. And so he pushed me. He really, really pushed me to come and to dream again after my dreams were dashed at 16. So that
Well,
started my journey. I
you're
started
right
as an
about that
F1 student.
You're right about that graduating at 16, and I was supposed to go to a Christian college, and my mother said, "You're not sending my 16-year-old nowhere." And so she
Right?
wanted
I
to go.
think yes, I think that was exactly what it was.
Yeah, so
It was
yeah,
my dad.
yeah,
It
we're
was
starting
my
life
dad.
at 16, and these Americans are still kids until they're 21. Anyway, so now you attended Spelman in Georgia, like you said. Did your immigration story, your immigrant journey, then begin as a legal student attending college? Is that how your journey started?
Yes, I was an F1 student. And like I said, I attended Spelman as an F1 student for all those years. To be honest, I attended so after I'm obviously an attorney, so I went to law school. I did do an MBA, and I did all of these things. And if you add if you add the time up, you probably say, well, I was in school too long. I agree. But you think about 4 years undergrad, and then 2 years for your master's, and then 3 years for your MBA. I went to law school because I didn't do math, but 4 and 3 and 2. So almost 10 years, right? Almost 10 years in school as an F1 student. All that time, yes, I was in status as an F1 student for all that time here in the United States.
Yes, that's probably going to be important as you continue this immigrant stories going forward, because how people arrive here is an important start to their immigrant journey. So, Jamila,
Absolutely.
immigration right now is a hot global topic as
Yeah.
stable nations throughout the world are dealing with their influx of immigrants from poor countries like the third world Caribbean nations or war challenged countries. So the immigrant experience has changed over time and under various governments. Have you found that your new home in America, have you found America to be welcoming to you as a foreigner, as a Black woman? And in any of that, would you say your accent or your identity present any challenges as you settled into America?
Yeah, so it's funny. Let me talk a little bit about accents, right? It's funny because Trinidadian people will tell me I have an American accent now, okay? But obviously I could people who grew up here in the US could tell that I'm not originally from here. Um I would say for me, coming from a small country and a small high school, let me just shout out our one person looking at us now. Thank you for joining us. Tell your friends to come on. But coming from a small country, Trinidad has maybe just over 1 million people, and coming from a small high school, I think that the college I went to was a good decision, a good choice. And I felt really welcome there. I felt at home. um and I just think that's something that they somehow have a really really good way of doing. You
So
feel
shout
at
out to
home. It
Spelman
was
College. Shout out to Spelman College.
absolutely shout
Not
out to
all
Summit.
schools, yeah, not all schools create that welcoming experience. So shout out to them for that. Good job. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, amazing sisterhood, right? But I would say, having gone to other colleges and other universities, I had different experiences, right? They weren't always positive, right? Let's keep it real. They weren't always positive. And people aren't always welcoming. I'm in a field that let's just keep it real, male domin white male dominated. I'm in a field that's white male dominated. And so there are places and spaces where I would be the only, let me say, chocolate chip in the room. I think it's something that I kind of I'm used to now. But I think there is a lot of, and this is, maybe another reason why this is good to really educate people, but there's a lot of room for education, for people to be educated about diversity as it relates to ethnicity, to national origin, and to create that space where we can show up as ourselves, where we can show up as our authentic selves, whether that means that I sound like this, or I sound a different way, or I look a different way. But just to answer your question, yeah, there are places where I have felt less than welcome.
Yes, and there are still people that are, immigrants have taken our jobs, and so there are groups of people who just have an issue with immigrants. Full stop. Then we
Right,
add to it, people of color, the accents that make us stand out once we open our mouth, and
right.
how we look. So definitely, America is, and especially being in Florida, I would say I think it's a little bit probably more accepting than other areas of the country. But if, like, once we travel, we get to see throughout America, you get to see the differences of reception as we go through the country. So Jamila, were there any aspects of the Jamaica of the sorry of the American life that was challenging to you or surprising to adjust to?
I think culture shock is a real thing. And for anybody who comes from somewhere else, whether they're coming to the US or the UK, Canada, I imagine that culture shock is real. And for me, and I'm pretty sure, as we go along this journey, we'll hear other people who are immigrants say this. But for me, it was hard, just kind of finding. You have to find your place. You come, and it's a big place, right? Like I said, Trinidad had maybe about 1 million, a little bit over 1 million people has. And the US is huge, right? So you kind of have to find your place in this big place. And I found that in Trinidad, it seems like everybody knows everybody, right?
Mhm.
Everybody knows Mr. and Mrs. Little Children from down the road in Trin City. And here it's like, to me, it seemed like everybody just kind of kept to themselves. And you know until you find your space and your place. And obviously the food, right? I had to figure out, where can I find some good Trini food or some good Caribbean food. So all those things were adjustments. I think just simple things like figuring out how to take public transportation. My older brother, again, he taught me how to take the train and how to take the bus when we were in Atlanta. Getting used to the differences in the weather, right? I mean, walking in the cold. I came, hello, Trinidad is like 90 degrees
Oh,
all the
you're
time, right? It's two seasons, hot and hotter, right? But here, like getting used to the weather. I had a really dear friend of mine who taught me. I mean, it's just like the simplest things. She taught me how to layer clothes so that I wouldn't be freezing, right? I mean, those are might be things that we take for granted, but I came from a country where I never had to do that. So there was a lot of adjustment and a lot of culture shock. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you mentioned about everybody knows who you are, and then you come here and nobody knows who you are, and they don't care to know who you are. That is,
That's how it feels. That's how
yes,
it
and that,
feels. So
yeah,
you kind of have to find your space.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, how long would you say it took for you to move? Well, I think you kind of alluded to it, from student status to legal resident status, and what were some of the challenges to the experience of changing your status from student to being able to legally live and work here in the United States?
Yeah, so I'll talk about this real quick, and then I'll give you guys the part of the lawyer version, right? So I actually got my green card. I think I've shared this before. I got my green card through the diversity visa program. And at that point in time, I was in law school. So it took me, I would say, about that full, um, I think it was about 2009, 2010. Took me about 9 years to actually be able to get that green card. My parents had filed for us as children, but I was over 21 at that point, and couldn't move forward with that petition at that point anyway, without getting into the weeds too much. So I decided to try it's called the green card lottery. That's what people typically refer to it as. But formally, it's a diversity visa program where the United States gives away about 50,000 green cards every year to countries where there is low representation. So Trinidad was one of those countries where there's low representation here in the U.S. And I was one of those. I was one of those 50,000 people, and there are millions and millions of people that apply for this annually. So I just say thank you, Jesus, because at that point in time I was in law school, and I just really needed to be able to do my loans and that kind of stuff, which you cannot do as an international student. Just remember that, on your own. And so that was a turning point for me. It was a turning point. It was the pivotal, I would say, the pivotal moment in my immigrant journey. Because to tell you the truth, I think had that not happened at the point in time when it did, I probably would have left to go back home.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point for all the students with F1 visas who are here and watching this show, which I used to be as well. I can tell you, when you're a young adult and you come to the United States and you live here for so long as a student, and you're now thinking about your what next, it's hard after you've been exposed to America and to the all the opportunities of America and the resources, and to go back home to where you left. And so I think F1 students are probably the so prime for how can I make this home, because it's been home to me for maybe 2 to 4 years. So I
Right.
definitely, I know I was also in that space. So that's okay, good, great. So Jamila,
Can
how
I just interject, Trudy, because I think that is such a great point. That's such a great point. How do I move to the next step as an F1 student, right? And there's so many different ways. F1 students out there, listen to me, because, and I'll say this because people, what people used to tell people told me, I've had people tell me, go get married. And that's why I never, ever, as an immigration attorney, I never advocate for people to do that. It's called marriage fraud. Let's not do that. But people told me that. They're like, oh, you're a pretty girl, go get married, or you're a young girl, go get married. And it's really heartbreaking. But for F1 students, yes, you definitely need to have a plan. There's work permits. You do not have to just go get married. There's work permits. There's investor visas. There's the visa program that I spoke about, the diversity visa program. There's so many different ways they're used. There's T's. I mean, there are a lot of different visas out there. So do your due diligence and figure out, just kind of get your game plan. So sorry, brief interjection.
Oh, no, no, no. And if you recall, Jamila, some time ago, you and I had talked about the on the investor side for the people who are wanting to do the investor side, because we had talked about, there are different ways, different opportunities. Like if they bought a home, which you need a home anyways, and started a business kind of like home health or childcare or something where it's an income producing situation, but it's a big investment. There are ways, guys. Jamila can definitely help you because she's not just someone who's walked that journey. She's also someone who is qualified to help you figure it out. You do not have to get married. I didn't get married for mine. There are definitely ways. So moving on. So Jamila, how would you say changes in immigration policy? I know you didn't really want to get too much into the lawyer side of your story, but hey, you are a lawyer. So let's just this one little piece. How would you say changes in immigration policy or public discourse about immigrants may have affected you personally?
Well, it affects me to the extent that this is my field that I practice in. It affects my clients, and I've seen, I've been through the Obama administration, the Trump administration, now the Biden Harris administration, practicing. I believe I was I believe I was practicing through all those, or at least two of those, but definitely here in the U.S. through all of those, and I've seen changes. It's kind of like night and day, or close to that
Easy
in
or
terms
not
of.
easy, or easy and not easy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, workable. Well, I don't know if it's ever easy, but I'll say workable and definitely not work and good luck. Workable and good luck. Right. Definitely not workable, or very challenging. And so I've seen that, the policies that were in place during the Trump administration that were very anti immigrant, and it takes some time even after the administration changes for those policies to kind of go away, right? But the interesting thing about immigration is that there's a lot of executive orders and executive actions that can be taken and change one thing or change it back, right? And this is why I won't get on my soapbox, but this is why our DACA um, clients and kids out there still, this is the only place that they know to be home, and they still don't have something that's really permanent. And I think that we see policies that change one way or another depending on the administration, and it definitely affects immigration.
And those who did do the let's get married route aren't any sure of anything.
No, I mean, you're going to be vetted. Your marriage is going to be vetted. So yeah, it's
Just
really
wanted
not a
to be,
route to go to
yeah,
unless you are
really a
in a
couple and
real, yeah, right, exactly, like in a real, really,
yeah.
it's not something to do.
But even when they're a real couple, it does not mean it's going to be a smooth ride or a clear cut road, because you and I have there's at least one client that I know I've mentioned to you, and it's still not clear cut. The point I'm really making is that there are a lot of resources out there, like uh, non-lawyer resources, and they're not necessarily the best road to go, because non-lawyer resources
Beware,
cannot give legal advice. They may be
beware.
document preparers, but they cannot give legal advice. And in some
Yeah,
cases, you really do need legal advice. It's not just simply fill up a form and you're in. It's not just
absolutely,
like that.
absolutely. Beware out there. I tell people, you want to speak to a licensed professional, to someone who is an immigration attorney, and it's too big of a I think it's too big of a risk to take. There's too much at stake to not make sure that you do it
let's
right
make the
the
point
first
on the
time.
let's make the point on the immigration attorney, because not all attorneys have across the board qualifications and everything. You may have the legal bar ability, but until you specialize in a space, just because someone's a lawyer doesn't mean they're up on the immigration law forms and processes and policies. So you want to find an immigration lawyer, which Jamila, I know you are in Florida, but are you limited to Florida to help
No, because
people?
immigration is federal, we can definitely, I can definitely, as an immigration attorney, take cases from all over the country, which I do, and help people who are outside the U.S. in whatever country they might be in to come to the U.S. if that's something that they're trying to do.
So, what advice would you give to someone who's considering or they're already in the process of immigrating to the United States legally?
I would say just find yourself a good immigration attorney. If there's so many ways to come here, and come legally, come legally and find yourself a good attorney who can give you advice in terms of what fits you best. And nothing's cookie cutter, right? So your specific issue may not be your friend's issue. So you have to get that information and that advice that is specific to your case to make an informed decision as to whether this is something that you want to do or not.
And people who are already here, maybe they came here through not so straightforward situations, but they're here, maybe they overstayed their F1 or whatever. Is there hope for them?
Yeah, I mean, there's always hope. Again, it depends on the case, right? It depends on your specific case. But I would say there is always hope. Consult with an immigration attorney and see what your options might be. It's never a good place to be in to overstay or to be illegal. That's a hard life, and you want to avoid that at all. You want to definitely avoid that.
Is there anything else you think we should share on this topic before we go?
No, I think this is good. I think, I just wanted to be able to get out here and share my story. Hopefully at some point, Trudy, I'll have you on and we can share your story. I definitely want to just give a plug for some of the additional work that I'm going to be doing and investing in. We recently launched a campaign or a company actually called Immigrant Advantage, where we're going to be providing, it's more of a community, right? Providing a community of support for immigrants. Um, Also started a 501c3, and we're working on getting that off the ground to provide English as a second language training for immigrants. So look out for those things. They're coming up. And also, I want to just put this invitation out there for any of you guys who might be seeing this and you want to share your story. Feel free to reach out to us. You can send us an email at info, that's INFO, at littlelawpa.com. And we will be really excited to chat with you and to share your story.
Yes, Immigrant Stories is a great idea. And as Jamila said, if you're an immigrant and you probably we should stick with the ones who are already here and already legal. So, because otherwise you'd be, well,
We'll chat with you. We'll chat with you about whether or not you want to,
you
whether
got
or
to
not
talk
you
the show.
actually.
So,
I
but
know,
yes,
right?
Immigrant Stories is going to be. How often are we going to have Immigrant Stories? You said it's a series
We'll
every
be
week.
we'll be posting when we hopefully we can do this weekly, but we'll be posting
At least
as soon
once a
as,
month.
yeah, as soon as we have one that's coming up, we'll post it. But hopefully at some point it'll be weekly, so you can look out for it once a week.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamila.
Thank you, Trudy, and thank you guys for watching. You guys have a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Trudy, we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.